So how do we take this excitement, this energy, this enthusiasm, this vibrancy, how do we take it from this event and translate it into progress and growth with our businesses at home? Well, there's one thing. There's one thing that I hope every single one of you will take away with you today, and it's this. It's a goal. It's a goal so powerful that no matter how many doubts, distractions, dream stealers, downswings, disappointments that life will throw at you, it won't make any difference, because you know exactly what it is you're going to achieve from your Juice Plus business, and that's where you're headed. It doesn't matter what happens to you. And I want to remind you a little bit, because I know in this business, we talk about goals all the time. We know that every direct selling, every Juice Plus journey starts with a goal. But what a lot of us don't realize is the goal that we choose is critical to our success. Because if we pick a small goal or an unambitious goal, it will have all the firepower of a flat battery. We have to pick a goal that every time we think about it, our heart leaps. We can feel our pulse race faster. We can feel our eyes shine when we think about it. That's what a goal is. A goal that's so powerful, nothing is going to stand in our way. And I want to address the women in the audience for a moment. You're only allowed one goal. Now, one thing about women, and guys, you will know this, is that women are great at multitasking. We're super women. We can do so many things at one time, and we're proud of it. And men, I absolutely adore you, but one of the reasons you have such great focus is that you don't really do multitasking. And it's because our brains are wired differently. We all know that. Men have very orderly brains. Little compartments for everything. Compartments for their job and their wife and their family and their kids and their car and their golf and their mother-in-law. They have those compartments all neatly worked out. And have you noticed that men can only be in one compartment at one time? You have to come out of the compartment, shut the door, and then start the new thing. But women, our brains look a little bit more like a great big overstuffed handbag. We just throw everything in there. We have a compartment for everything. It's exactly the same compartment. And our wires get crossed. And just because I can see some men laughing, I do want to point this out. Guys, you have a compartment with nothing in it. Women don't have that compartment. And if you're in a relationship, you will know this, because you say to your husband, "What are you thinking?" And when he says nothing, he means it. And guys come up to me after these events and they say, "I want you to know this is my favorite place to be. It's where I'm happiest." But as women, we're constantly thinking. We have no little sanctuary where we can just take some peace and time for ourselves and work out what we really want in life, and it becomes a sabotage. We start overthinking everything, and we do want to become a sales coordinator, virtual franchisee, national marketing director. That's what we want to do, but at the same time, we're thinking, yeah, but I'd also like to take an extra course in homeopathy or naturopathy. And you know what? My kids have always wanted a puppy, even though I know 5 minutes after that puppy's in our house, they're not going to do one thing to take care of it. I'm going to let the kids adopt a puppy. You cannot become a national marketing director, do an extra course in naturopathy or whatever it is, and adopt a puppy all at the same time. You have to choose. And you have to decide one goal. And here's the rule about goals. And I hope that for those of you who are leaders, who have distributors who are not here today, you will teach them this technique. One goal, 1 year, one step at a time. And when you've achieved that goal, you look for the next one. But if you have a target that you would like to achieve and it's right there and it really is exciting for you, it makes your heart leap, and then you say, yeah, but I'm also looking at achieving that as well, it just doesn't make sense. Because the greatest challenge that we have as women is that we overestimate the challenge and we underestimate ourselves. And when it comes down to it, we fear that one goal. We feel that fear, that commitment. And we're constantly thinking. I don't know how many of you have this experience, but we know at nights, that's when our brains really kick into gear. Who gets into bed at night, turns out the light, husband's asleep? We think that's a time to start talking about what happened yesterday, the day before, tomorrow, the meaning of life. And it drives us crazy, guys, that you're asleep. I always nudge my husband, are you awake? But he's got very good at lying dead, so I nudge him harder. And when he wakes up, I go, oh, I can't sleep either. Anyway, I want to talk about... So let's stop overthinking this business. You have a fantastic product, a unique product, a fantastic business opportunity, a unique business opportunity. Focus there and set a goal that next year, 12 months from now, I will be in this room as a brand new virtual franchisee, or I'll belong to the 3 Club, 12 Club, whatever it is. Make that decision and stick to it. Because the great thing about this business is you cannot fail if you do not quit before you succeed. You cannot fail if you do not quit before you succeed. Things will happen to you. How many of you have driven right across town in the rain for a prospect or maybe a wellness presentation, somebody who's organized a wellness presentation and they are sure that there will be 20 people in that room. And you turn up and there they are sitting on the couch with one very annoyed looking mother-in-law. Who's had that presentation? Who has had the prospect who's so keen to join the Juice Plus family? They want it, they're burning for it, it's all going to happen. And so just about 24 hours before you're due to meet, you send an email. And even though there's been a flurry of communications between you, nothing's responded to, no reply. You check that your computer was plugged in. It is, the message went. But you think, I'll just pick up the phone. You pick up the phone, it goes to voicemail. And no matter what, for some reason, and we may know not what it is, that prospect, that person who is determined to become a distributor, and we know how our love for that person grows from the time they first say, I'm going to do it, they've disappeared in a puff of smoke. Even the FBI couldn't find them. We've all had that happen, and that's the business. But that isn't what's going to stop you achieving the income and life of your dreams through Juice Plus. None of that is going to stop you. Because if you stay in your lane, you will reach your destination. Sometimes you will feel as though you are moving forwards. Sometimes you will feel as though you're at a standstill. Sometimes you'll feel like everything is moving backwards for you. But that won't be a problem. What will be your greatest challenge this year is your willingness to pull out of the lane and into a very comfortable, convenient, emotional handicap parking bay. And some of those parking bays are in this room right now. Maybe you are sitting there listening to my message and thinking, it sounds great, I would love to, but I'm too busy. I have a young family. I have a full-time job. I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm something. You have to know what you're doing is giving yourself permission to fail. And if you give yourself that permission, it will be granted to you. Because all of us could find a reason why not. I don't have time to talk about my background, but I will tell you this. My father was an abusive alcoholic. I married to get out of my house rather than into a happy marriage. You can imagine how really well that one worked out for me. At 24, I had 2 small children. I had a mortgage, a huge mortgage, and I became the sole provider for my kids. And at that point, I knew I could no longer wear my background like some trophy to victimhood. I knew that I was not responsible, or the past was behind me, but I could move forward. And at that time, I made a pact to myself that you cannot make excuses and money at the same time. I cannot look back and blame my father, a bad marriage, whatever it is. I can't blame those things because it is making excuses for yourself. And when you make excuses, you are stalled. If you look around you, and I know that Juice Plus has had the most amazing people on stage, and you still do, sharing their stories, what you will find is that everybody deals with challenges in their life. Everybody, if they need to, will have a reason why it is going to be hard this year to realize the income and lifestyle you dream about. All of us will. And yet, some of the masterpieces, people and things have been created from adversity. Michelangelo, arguably one of the world's greatest artists, he created David, this magnificent sculpture of a man, perfection, that centuries and centuries of people will get to enjoy. And when you see David, and I know many of you have been to Italy and seen David, you'll feel tears come to your eyes. He's so perfect. And yet, when Michelangelo went to the quarry to find the marble to create his sculpture, the piece he chose, the quarry master tried to talk him out of it. He said that huge piece of marble is full of imperfections and flaws. You'll need to find another piece. And Michelangelo took that marble back to his studio and created David, arguably one of the greatest masterpieces of the world. And you know what he said? He said, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set him free. And that is our challenge, that we take what we have in life and we carve the best out of it. And you can carve perfection out of anything. The greatest lesson I learned, apart from not to wear my past like some trophy to victimhood, was that it takes courage, not confidence, to dare to believe that you are worth everything that Juice Plus has to offer. Confidence has nothing to do with it. It's courage. It's the courage to move beyond your comfort zone, move beyond excuses and circumstances, and decide that I want it, I deserve it, I can do it, and I will do it. So give yourself permission to succeed and avoid all the little parking bays that will come at you. Another one I want to share with you. I'm sure all of you have felt a need sometimes or a temptation to pull into this one, the little parking bay with the sign on it, what other people think. Has anyone got a negative person in their life? We all deal with negativity. Some people were born with the gift of being able to put a dampener on other people's enthusiasms. It's a talent. And they love to use it. And I don't know if there are so many mean girls out there or they just move around a lot, but we are going to come across people who say, oh, but you used to be a doctor and you're now selling full-time, you're in direct selling, or you used to be a nurse, or you used to be a teacher. What are you doing? You know, doesn't the lack of security worry you? Maybe you will come across those people. But you can't let other people determine your destiny in life. Pretty much, I believe there are two types of people. Those who light up every room they enter, and those who light up every room they leave. And one of the amazing things about Juice Plus is that we are around people who light up the room when they enter it. One of the greatest philosophers of all time, Dr. Seuss, always be yourself, because the people who matter don't mind, and the people who mind don't matter. So we have to make a decision ourselves that we will reach whatever level that we want to reach in this business. And we can't allow self-doubt, fear to hold us back. And we certainly can't allow sabotage. And at a risk, again, of offending the women in the audience, I want to talk about one way that we sabotage ourselves so often. Everyone would agree that women are good at talking. It's our skill. It's like multitasking. It's what we do. And we're good at it. And most men in the audience, and the men are very silent because they're frightened of the person sitting next to them, and they know they can't afford to nod and say, I know what it is. But think about it. Something happens to your husband and he comes home and you say, how was your day? And he may say something like, I had a flat tire on the freeway. And you go, what did you do? And he says, fixed it. And the story is done. When something like that happens to us, we begin preparing the story on the way home, and we make it, package it up in the best possible way. We have suffered, and you're going to suffer this story through us. And most likely, if you're like me, I don't even start at the point that it happened. I like to roll it back to the beginning of my day and everything that went wrong in that day. The children not going to school, Amy forgetting her gym shoes, your mum calling at 9 o'clock just as I was about to go out of the house. And by the way, their neighbor, it looks like that neighbor wasn't married, but it looks like he might be getting married, and mum wants us to go over and say, most men are looking at you and they're thinking, just beam me up, Scotty. Just somebody get me out of this place. And we're on about it. So I was going to take Main Street, but I went around the side, and that cafe that we used to go to, it looks like it's closed now, and you know what, maybe we should give it a... And we overtalk everything. We overthink everything, and we overtalk everything. And it's sabotage, because this business isn't about finding the right words. It's about finding the right people. And we will never find the right people to become our partners in Juice Plus if we're constantly talking at them. And man, I believe that one of the reasons that you are successful in this business is you know how to say more in fewer words. And by the way, this is not a relationship presentation. I want to say on the home front, we're very happy for you to say very little. You know, we like doing the talking. We enjoy that part. In fact, this is just a little life skill I would like to share with all the men in the audience. Basically, your wife only wants to hear 3 words from you every single day. And if you say those 3 words to her, I promise you, she will be happy. And it's not, I love you. We know you love us. It's not, you're right. We know we're right. The 3 words that I want to teach you today, that if you say these to your partner every single day, I promise you, you will have the best marriage. The 3 words are, and then what? And I want to promise you this, if you say those 3 words, you will be the first man on the planet to do so. But now I want to step back for a moment and say, why do we not hear those words? Why are people not saying to us, and then what? It's because of that tendency we have to constantly keep talking, and we don't give anybody any information. So let me tell you this, repeat again. This business is not about finding the right words. This business is about finding the right people. The more you say, the less people will listen. We've entered a new era. We've entered the era of impact rather than information. And the information that we know about Juice Plus, that gives us the confidence to look at somebody and say, I know that if you use this product for 4 months, I know you'll be calling me in 4 months and you will be saying it was the best decision I ever made. Thank you for making sure that I got onto the Juice Plus program. That's the kind of way we have to present this business. So if you are taking notes, and I know a few of you are, write down this. Guys, you don't need to. This is for the women. Words are not my friend. Think about it for a moment. Think about it. We're standing up at a wellness presentation. What if we pictured this? That every single person in our audience is thinking, tell me more. And then what? What else? This is amazing. And if we think of our business this way, we will do things differently. I want to give you an example. Every time you share information, your only reason for sharing that information is for the person you're talking with to think, I want it. I'm going on the program. I'm interested in hosting a wellness presentation, or I want to learn more about the business. And if you understand that, when you're talking one-on-one, wellness presentations, sitting across from a prospect, if you're thinking, I need them to be saying, tell me more, and then what, you will become a much more powerful communicator. So all of a sudden, my daughter knows it's time to go to the hospital, and off she goes with her husband. And when I looked at the house, I realized what I had done. So I turned to everybody and I said, we are going to clean this house. We're going to make this house absolutely perfect. So when she comes home tomorrow or the next day, everything is perfect. And I turned to my son and I see him holding golf clubs. My daughter is in labor and my son has decided that he is going to continue he has this tee-off time already done. So I looked at him and I said, you're not going to play golf. You are not going to play golf. And he looked at me and said, but I want to. And I said to him, it's not happening. You're not going. You're going to clean the house with the rest of us. And he stood there. Now, my son is well over 6 foot, and I'm just slightly shorter than that. So, I went up to him and I gave him a little push and I said, I want those golf clubs back in the garage. And his little boy, his little 6-year-old, is watching all this, and he said to me, you're not the boss of my daddy. And I looked at him and said, you're mistaken. I am the boss of your daddy. Oh, I am definitely the boss. And I could see his brain working, and I'm seeing him looking at me, and he's looking at his dad, and my son decides to stand like this just to make it. And he said to me, I don't think you're the boss of anybody. I don't think you're the boss of anybody. If that isn't a reminder to us that sometimes we take on responsibilities that are not even our responsibility. For me, it took a 6-year-old for me to work out that I was a control freak. I was in my daughter's house. The reality is I didn't want to clean the house on my own. I was perfectly capable of cleaning the house on my own, but no, I wanted everybody else to suffer alongside me. So think about it. What are things that you do that you could not do so that you could become a national marketing director in Juice Plus? What are the things that you've become the boss of? How many of you are doing things that are past their satisfaction date, their expiration date? Maybe you're on a school committee or a church committee, or maybe you're continuing to do things that you have done for too long. And let me tell you this, at the risk of not sounding quite a nice person. First of all, gratitude is the shortest emotion. If you are doing something that you no longer feel that you should be doing, let me tell you, the people you're doing it for have probably begun to take you for granted. I'm not talking about genuine contribution. I'm talking about staying with something because people say, nobody can do it. You've always done that. We count on you. Somebody told me at a convention last week, she said, Mary, I volunteer at my school 3 afternoons a week. I said, you're not volunteering at your work. You are working at that school and you're an unpaid worker. The school is taking advantage of you. That's crazy. What could you stop doing to free yourself forward? What could you stop doing? Let me also tell you this, resentment is the ugliest emotion. And if you're doing things that you really no longer want to do, but you feel obligated to do it, then it is going to show. It's going to show in your face. We know tension is the greatest ager. And you're going to need to take more Juice Plus. What is it that you can stop doing? Because your success will come down to more the things that you do rather than the things that you don't do. We have to look at the things that are holding us back, that are stopping us, and maybe thinking, am I just making excuses for the things I do? Let me tell you, one of the greatest challenges that I had is I had trouble picking up the phone. I really had trouble picking up that phone because being a woman, I always thought someone was going to say, you know what, I don't really want to host a presentation, and I'm wondering if I can switch the product I bought from you out, or it's not working, whatever. I would imagine the worst case scenario, always. So I had trouble picking up the phone, but I could fill my day very happily with doing all sorts of things. But I know this, if you're not making the calls, you're not going to get a business, because if you don't have your wellness presentations, if you don't have appointments, if you don't have bookings, you don't have a business. And you can't make hope your business plan. You have to do something. I had a really simple solution, and I'm going to share it with you because it works. One day I'm walking through a mall, and I happened to see some bright, shiny bangles. And I'm wearing them today. I wear them every day of my life. And what I did is I purchased the bangles, and I put 10 on my wrist every single morning. And that was a promise to myself that I would make 10 calls, that day. I would make 10 calls. Every time I made a call, I transferred the bangle across to the wrist. And instead of focusing on rejection and no's, I began focusing on moving those 10 bangles. And what a difference it made, just such a simple technique. Guys, maybe it's one that you probably won't want to try, I don't know, but at least it would be a very great conversation opener to have these bright, shiny bangles on the wrist. Other things that I did, I developed a separate calendar for my business, so there was nowhere to hide. I could look at my calendar. I didn't fill it with taking the car for maintenance, picking the kids up from school, going to a dental appointment. It was only my business. So every time I looked at my calendar, I knew exactly the health of my business, because the only state of your business, the only indicator of the state of your business is your calendar. That is a fact. So we can't afford to make hope our business plan. We have to tell ourselves, I want it, I deserve it, I can do it, and I will do it. We need to make our message so compelling that people are lining up to get on the program. But I want to talk to you about one more little parking bay. It has a tiny little sign on it, and unfortunately, the sign is sometimes so small we don't even realize we're turning into it. And again, particularly if we're women, how many women are like me and have a zero sense of direction? It seems to be when God created man, he ran out of the GPS, and there was none left for us. So I have trouble. I had to be escorted to the stage to make sure I actually made it on stage. I'm the person who has the embarrassing experience. I come into a hotel like this, I find my elevator, I go up to my room, I find my room easily. But somehow, because I have to turn around in my room and come out the other way, anyone know what I'm talking about? When I get back to the elevator, I am completely disorientated. So the most embarrassing thing that happens to me at conventions like this is I come down from the elevator and I head straight off to the convention floor, but I usually hit a blank wall. And it could be embarrassing, but I've learned how to deal with it. If there's a painting, I always look at the painting and say, I like it. Yes, I think it's a good piece of art, and off I go. If there's a window, I like to look at the view for a moment and say, yeah, I think the view is better from my room. And if there's nothing, women, all you have to do is just put your brochure up in front of your head and just turn off like that. But we recognize that we don't have that sense of direction. Guys, you have it. We're totally envious. Anyone married to a guy who argues with his GPS? So confident. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is that we tend to pull into this little parking bay without even realizing we're pulling into it. It has a sign on it, when. And because I know I have an accent, I want to spell that for you. P-R-O-C-R-A-S-T-I-N-A-T-I-O-N. Maybe you're sitting here today thinking, I would love to become a national marketing director, a sales coordinator. I would love that more than anything else, but I'm going to wait until my youngest goes to school. I'm going to wait until Labor Day is over, or whatever it is. I'm going to wait until my son goes, properly leaves home, and I can turn his room into my office. When? What we're doing is playing that little game of not addressing the fact that the only time is now. We're procrastinating, and I can tell you this, life is not a dress rehearsal. We get one shot at it. There are no retakes in a live show. You can't afford to procrastinate the things that really matter to you. You have to seize today, because none of us know what's ahead of us. I had to deal with that. I've had to deal with that all of my life, and more recently, because I didn't have a real job being a direct seller. When my dad died of alcoholism, I mentioned that he was an alcoholic. When my dad died, my mom had had such a tough life, and I felt so hard for her. So I said to her, I didn't used to like to go there when my father was there because he was violent. But I said to my mom, I'm going to take you out one day. We will shop, lunch, library, and come back. But I have to tell you this, my mom graduated college with a master's in manipulation. So my mom managed to turn that one day into a full-time job. She would forget things and have to go back to the store. She couldn't do both in one day. She would borrow books that she hadn't read. You know, all of these things. And one day I woke up and I realized that I had become my mom's full-time caregiver. And I was happy to do so much for her, but there were so many other things I wanted to do in my own life. Every step of my life has been achieved one goal at a time. My very first goal was just to keep my children in their home so that we wouldn't go back to being renters. That was my goal. Nothing could have held me back because I knew that I was responsible for paying those bills. So it didn't matter what happened. I just kept forging on. As the years went by, things changed. My son went to a private college. It's, you know, when you think of the life that I had, just even thinking about it now, to know that I was able to afford to send my children to the best schools, to give them the best education, to give them the best possible life, that my greatest pride is that I was a role model for my kids, that you don't have to be defeated by anything in your life. And I remember, thank you. In fact, my daughter was my greatest motivation to move on. Everything I have, I owe to this business of direct selling. And looking at my daughter, because my mum had made a mistake in her marriage, her mum had lost her husband, he was killed in the war, and I suddenly looked at my daughter and thought, if I don't step up and change something, I will pass on that legacy to her, and I would see her making the same mistakes that had been made by women in our lives. One day I dared to dream the biggest dream of all. About 10 years ago, I thought about immigrating to America. And you have to know that I had grown up in awe of the United States of America, the music, the television programs. We didn't have a television until I was married, but all of those things, I was in awe of it. And I dared to dream one day that I could actually come and be part of this amazing country. And I tried and I tried. And I don't know if you know this, but it's very hard to immigrate. Every year, I believe in the category that I was hoping to come in, 20 million people applied and 50,000 people actually were granted that interview to even take that first step. After 6 years of trying, one day I go to the mailbox and I see this envelope. And it's the envelope. You don't have a no, it's just a nothing. So when I knew the envelope came, I knew I had that first step. And I raced to my mom and I said, Mom, I have an interview with the American consulate. I had this dream of coming here and being a writer and a speaker just like this. And my mom looked at me and she said, if you go, I'll die. If you leave this country. And she'd got a lot of practice in. If I won a trip somewhere, she would say, I'll get sick if you go away. So I would always go away feeling like I was letting my mom down and worrying about what would happen to her and trying to call back and trying to see if she was okay. I looked at my mom and she was in her late 80s. A terrible life, a really tough life. She'd done so much for us. And I thought, I can't leave her. I can't leave her. But something kept telling me, you have a right to live your own life. All of us have a right to pursue the life that we dream about. So I finally summons up the courage to say to her, I'm doing it. And she continued saying to me, if you leave this country, I will just die. I'll give up. Well, she was 88 when I finally got on that plane and came to start the process of becoming an American. Last November, I flew back to help her celebrate her 98th birthday. And I walked in the door, and I had nothing in my hands. And she said to me, where's my present? And I said, your present is that you are alive today. Because if I'd been your caregiver, there was a very good chance that you would not have made it to 98. Don't let other people, don't let other things, don't let fears and doubts and distractions stop you from achieving the life that any of us can have from this business. Everybody settles for something in life. Most people settle for less be the person who settles for more, because when you settle for more, you shine a light for everybody else who doesn't dare to believe that they can have a better life. And there's a poem that says it so much better than I could ever say it, so I want to finish my presentation by sharing it with you. The poet, for those of you who want to look it up, is Marianne Williamson. I'm sure many of you know who it is. And if you doubt that you going for your goals in life and believing that you can do better in your life, if you doubt in any way or think that that is a selfish move, this poem will convince you that by you daring to settle for more, you will empower so many others, just as our achievers did. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented, fabulous, and gorgeous? Actually, who are we not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us. It's in all of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we're liberated from our own fears, our very presence automatically liberates others. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you.